What's going on, everybody? It's me, Brandon, back again with another episode, and at the end of the year, another year yet again, and we are going to be talking about my top 10 games of 2024. 2024 was a great year for video games for me. I didn't play a lot of new titles. I strive to always hit at least 10 new games so I can go ahead and make one of these videos every year. I think in 2022... I really didn't play that many new titles, so I did like my top 5 favorite games. And I thought this year, honestly, it was going to be something very similar. But thankfully, I think I played like 11 new games, and there are 2 on this list that I don't necessarily know if I would put them in the list naturally, because I like having the ideas of DLCs and collections and stuff like that not included. But for what you will see in this list, there are 2 entries that I kind of made an exception, and I figured. But I guess that's the magic of making these things. It's my list. I can kind of do whatever I want. So here are my 10 games of 2024 that I've played that I really enjoyed, that I think anything on this list I would wholeheartedly recommend to anybody. And with that being said, another year in the can. This was a really weird year for me personally, but good things come to those who wait, and sometimes making videos was a little difficult this year because of just situations that were happening, but I was able to always try to make at least 1 or 2 videos a month, and that's going to continue. I really love making YouTube videos, and I find this very therapeutic. It is a fun process, but I just need to figure out more timing. I'm making this video very last minute, very not enough days of working on a video and just singular days of working on a video, if that makes sense. But anyway, this is my top 10 games of 2024. I hope you enjoy it.
Number 10, Mario vs. Donkey Kong. Since 2004, I've heard nothing but great things about the Mario vs. Donkey Kong franchise, especially the original Game Boy Advance game. Earlier this year, Nintendo made a remake of the 2004 Game Boy Advance classic. This was the first time I was able to play it. Mario vs. Donkey Kong is heavily inspired to the great Game Boy game Donkey Kong, where Mario maneuvers around the level collecting items to fight his way to Donkey Kong. This game was a lot of fun. It was very fun, but it was short, which was to be expected, and that was one of the things going into Mario vs. Donkey Kong that I was expecting, as a lot of players have said there's just not enough content for the price. Even though it was a short runtime though, I enjoyed my time with Mario vs. Donkey Kong, especially as the levels continued to the later parts of the game, where the difficulty started turning up a couple notches. Number 9, Destiny 2, The Final Shape. My video on Destiny 2 talking about the last 10 years of Destiny was a great example of how I felt about Destiny 2. The game has had so many ups and downs, with a slow start and varying expansions going from great to excellent to downright poor. Destiny 2 has been a bumpy ride with highs and lows. The Final Shape acts as an endgame finale to close out the last 10 years of Destiny. I was going into this DLC expecting something, but I was surprised by a complete story that felt like the length of an old Halo campaign. With great writing and excellent conclusion to this part of Destiny, I honestly don't know if I will continue after completing the Final Shape, but I can say that the journey to that expansion was bumpy, but it was the best experience to close out my time with Destiny 2. Number 8, Marvel vs. Capcom Arcade Collection. These games have been around since the 90s. How dare I put this in my top 10 list? Well, with how long these games have been actively trying to be championed back onto the digital markets and physical releases, Capcom finally delivered an incredible collection of archived Marvel vs. Capcom classics with all the bells and whistles, like a full-blown art gallery, rollback netcode, and that signature Capcom style. When I first played Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in the arcades as a child, I was blown away by the number of characters in the game and the style that they were all designed in. It was incredible. This collection is my dream come true, and I'm so happy it's real in 2024. I know this and Destiny 2 are a DLC, and this is a collection, and this isn't necessarily new video games, but I just think in terms of how big this moment was and how special it really is, Marvel vs. Capcom, the arcade collection, is quite something special, and I really think if you haven't played these games, this is the way to do it. Please pick it up, please support this game, because there's a really good chance we may see something new in the future with this collection. Number 7, Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 took the world by storm at the beginning of the year. With so many people discussing the game, it ultimately led to me picking it up earlier than I would have, and I was shocked when I first played Helldivers 2. Coming from the more isometric point of view of the original to now the over-the-shoulder third-person shooter, Helldivers made that transition quite naturally, and with a game master essentially making the plans for the players to overcome whatever evil lays on each given planet, the highly disposable Helldivers will come and try to save the day for Super Earth. The gameplay was tight, the humor was spot on, and the gameplay loop was fantastic after fighting hours upon hours of the Terminid and Automaton horde. Though the game was more or less the same, I loved my time with Helldivers 2, primarily because of the fantastic graphics, gameplay, and fun with my fellow Helldivers. But if they had single player content, I think I would be all over that. The gameplay is too good to just be a multiplayer game. Number 6, SteamWorld Heist 2. Every new entry in the SteamWorld series excites me, especially regarding what Image and Form will be able to cook up next. When SteamWorld Heist 2 was announced, I was so excited to return to that series again. The first SteamWorld Heist felt like the best bits of some of my favorite science fiction shows like Firefly. They created an excellent experience about a ragtag group of wannabe heroes and trek across space fighting bandits, aliens, and more. Well, Heist 2 is now nautical themed. We have our vessel and we can go ahead and sail the high seas, fight would-be pirates, listen to a shanty or two, and go to the next big score, all while uncovering the secrets of the high sea. I loved this game, and I think the characters and the world itself is so charming and very relaxed. Image and Form is so good with the SteamWorld franchise to where they want to remind you, play at your own pace, but it is also just simply a video game. Number 5, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Sparking Zero was the Dragon Ball game we have all begged for. After all these years, Sparking Zero finally came out and delivered that signature Tenkaichi gameplay we have all been asking for since Tenkaichi 3, which was back in 2007. Sparking Zero's attention to detail regarding special moves, transformations, and the combinations of refined Tenkaichi gameplay makes Dragon Ball Sparking Zero the must-have game for a Dragon Ball fan. However, after going through almost all of its content over a month, I did not return as much as I had hoped unless I wanted to play a few matches with some friends and family. Shortly, we will get a rollout of a bunch of characters from the DLC passes, but as of right now, there is just no new announcements on when the characters will be coming out, and ultimately, as I did everything in this game, I got all the achievements, I don't see myself coming back and playing it as much as I had hoped. But I still really loved Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Number 4, Persona 3 Reload. Persona is one of those franchises I first started playing in high school with Persona 4 Golden. Golden was my first entry into the Persona series, and it took over everything when the PS Vita was still being played daily, and Persona 4 Golden quickly became one of my favorite games ever. After I finished Persona 4 Golden, I looked to the rest of the available games in the series, and Persona 3 was the next best thing. However, the online forums let me know that there was not a definitive version of Persona 3. Instead, there were various versions of degrees of having different concepts, like the original game had no team controls, but Persona 3 FES added a story mode and had more story elements than the previous one. And then there was also Persona 3 Portable, which was more akin to a visual novel, but then they also allowed you to have team-based gameplay. Persona 3 was all over the place, but I did end up playing a majority of all of them. I ended up playing FES, and I then played a bulk of portable, and I think the Persona 3 story is just so good. But now we have a definitive version. Persona 4 is my favorite, but my favorite narrative may be Persona 3. I cannot recommend it enough because of just how good it really is. Number 3. Tekken 8. Tekken 8 was my first new video game experience I had this year, and Tekken 8 was one of the best experiences I had this year. Whether playing the campaign, playing arcade mode, or customizing my favorite characters, I always had fun. As a lifelong Tekken fan, Tekken 8 doesn't only continue pushing Tekken in a great direction, still Tekken is growing in a bold new direction with a grand narrative and some excellent story moments. Tekken 8 feels like the perfect form of Tekken, with gameplay being easy to learn and hard to master. The online scene is strong and full of life, and the game has massive amounts of content, whether online or off. Tekken 8 is the strongest entry in the series yet, and I cannot wait to see what comes next. Number 2, Balatro. This game has been around since February, and I have seen it all year. It wasn't until I saw this game nominated for Game of the Year at the Video Game Awards that my interest was officially piqued. At his job, I bumped into my friend Matt, and he's been mentioning how much he's been playing it. It's so good, as everyone's been saying, so I went home and officially bought Balatro as well. After a run or two, I understood the obsession and the appeal of trying to overcome all the odds and antes. Balatro, down to its core, is a card game with hand draws. However, with enough thought and additions of jokers, tarot cards, playing cards, and simply the luck of the draw to have a completely different run every single game. As you climb the ranks and get close to that ending, some of the biggest plays feel like the most exciting thing in a video game. And sometimes those bad draws and bad hands can get in the way and crumble your winnings. At that point, you can get right back on the saddle and do it all over again. Balatro is a fantastic example of what a video game should be. It has a low barrier of entry, and it is fun and addictive gameplay that can be played over and over and over again. Balatro was a tremendous surprise of the year for me, and I really did have the greatest time trying to beat all of the antes and at least get one win in. I have loved Balatro the moment I started playing it. Number 1, Astrobot. My favorite game of the year is Astrobot. Astrobot was announced in May of this year, and it looked like an entire celebration of PlayStation. Once September arrived and I got my hands on Astrobot, that's precisely what it was. 5 generations of PlayStation are showcased in Astrobot, a wonderfully charming platformer that goes across planets and levels and reunites us with some fan favorite characters from PlayStation's past. I was so excited when I first played some of these character themed levels and saw some of my favorite video game characters scattered across this game. The DualSense works wonders here, as well as it is a character on its own with how the controller helps immerse the player entirely within the world of Astrobot. Just like Astro's Playroom that comes with your PlayStation 5, the character of Astrobot cements himself as the new PlayStation mascot, with Sony making an incredible platformer in 2024 that wears a lot of Nintendo's influence of great platformers of yesteryear, creating an essential must-play PlayStation 5 title full of wonderfully fun levels, challenging levels, charming visuals, and 5 generations of PlayStation.
That is it for this episode today. I really hope you enjoyed it. Those are my top 10 games of 2024. Now, I really loved playing a lot of my backlog this year. The backlog actually took up so much time of my video gaming, and I was really enjoying, scratching off Metal Gear Solid finally. I conquered Silent Hill 2, the original game, and I replayed Grand Theft Auto 3, and I was having a lot of fun just playing games I've had. And it's been a video that I've been really wanting to make, but this year was very weird for me in terms of like personal things. There was a lot of ups, there was a lot of downs, but I still was able to go ahead and make these videos. And ultimately, my YouTube channel is basically always going to be that. I love this YouTube channel for me. And, I'm going to keep making content because it just makes so it makes me so happy, and I really do love doing some of the staple stuff we've been doing in the last couple of years, like games of the years, and just having those evergreen videos, which is more what I'm really trying to focus on. But I really enjoyed gaming this year personally. I think finding games like Balatro were really exciting. I loved Astrobot. I loved playing more of my PlayStation this year. I really enjoyed just gaming, and I haven't played too many multiplayer games really. I'm not a big multiplayer guy, as I've said in the past, but games like Helldivers, I've played a little bit of Marvel Rivals. I do like those games, they are a lot of fun. But as we get to some of those like single player experiences like SteamWorld Heist 2, and enjoying all of these games, and especially enjoying the backlog and stuff that I haven't touched or had a chance to play until this year, was awesome. And I'm going to continue doing that. There are a bunch of videos that I've been wanting to make. I just haven't had the time to really sit down and start throwing stuff at my notes. But when I do, I will be here. I'm going to continue to try and do about a video or two a month. I think that has been a good goal for me over the last year or so. And this was a weird year. 2024 was a very weird year. I had a lot of like hits on YouTube, and then I had a lot of like duds on YouTube. But I mean, again, I am not working to try and make this into something crazy. I do it for the sake of me. I feel like if I'm not making a video, I feel like if I'm not talking about video games, I'm simply just not myself. So thank you to everybody who has and will continue and has maybe even found this as their first YouTube channel or YouTube video of mine. Thank you for watching, as always. Happy New Year, going into 2025 with optimism, and I do have some fun videos planned. We were able to do a Halloween video, which I was like, oh my god, that was so cool. But again, I'm not giving myself enough days to work on a video. I'm kind of just giving myself like, well, I have off this day, we're gonna make a whole video in one day, and that kind of drains me. That's kind of what I'm doing right now. So please, I'm sorry I'm rambling on too long. Happy New Year, everybody. Please, if you are interested in more content, consider subscribing. That is it. Happy New Year, everybody. As always, my name is Brandon, and I will see you all next year. All right, bye everybody. See you later.